and here we are again, and obviously it's time to kind of go back to the good old days. And with the good old days, I kind of believe, well, flashy start. And here you go. The flashy start, of course, belongs to Dishonored. Now, this game actually hit the shelves on 2012, and it's made by Arcane Studio, and you might actually kind of remember this pretty interesting studio, which actually brought us quite a few titles. First of all, one of the studios that participated in Wolfenstein Youngblood. They also brought us BioShock 2. The new game called Prey. All of this is made with this studio. Obviously, when they first launched Dishonored, it wasn't exactly like the biggest hit on the market. However, soon a lot of people actually noticed the potential of this game for the simple reason it had quite interesting game mechanics and a storyline, and it literally let you have a sandbox experience which was divided in chapters with dedicated map, and you can just use your powers because you're basically given magical powers following the storyline, and you can play it any way you want. And of course the game actually had a pretty substantial, I would say, kind of like on the dot system for rewarding good behavior or killing people, which a lot of people took very close to heart, and they started challenging each other. There's a lot of community chatter about this game when it comes to what choices you make. Do you go for stealth? Do you go for sneer, like all out, you know, grenades and stuff like this? And when it comes to game performance, this game is actually very, very playable in, well, basically since it launched. First off, the requirements. Let's just quickly run through them. So it wants 2.4 GHz quad-core or better, and it is apparently enhanced for multi-core processors. So basically, the moment you have something like as old as Q66, the first quad-core CPU, you're pretty much set. It requires Windows Vista or Windows 7, and also it has support for 64-bit, which, well, not really many games had at the time. For GPU, we need at least 768 megabytes of video RAM or better. So we're looking at like GeForce 460 or Radeon 5850 ones. Technically, the more, well, VRAM you have, the better off you are anyway. And in terms of free disk space, 9 gigs, and this is it. Now, when it comes to actual graphical fidelity, this is something this game kind of doesn't really have much to do. So you have your usual FOV, which a lot of people are just hell-bent over that they cannot change the FOV. You can have the slider all the way up to 110. We can just use it for it. Well, I mean, for me, 75 is fine. I don't have 360 vision around my head, so I don't know what the deal is. Texture details, obviously we can select high, model details high, light shafts on or off, anti-aliasing mode, FXEA or SSO or TXA, depends what your GPU can actually pull. Rat shadows, yes, there is rats in this game, so if you think about Plague Tale, in a sense, well, there might be a bit less rats in this game rather than the Plague Tale, but nonetheless, it's actually pretty decent stuff. And in terms of everything else, to be completely fair, that's all about it. In terms of resolution, if you're playing this game in 2020, you can easily put it on 4K, and honestly it's gonna be fine. You're gonna be hitting 60 frames and above at all times, and I must say that's not really gonna improve the way the game looks, because to be honest, it does not really have HD textures on them. So without further ado, let's just take a look how it looks and how it feels, and I'm just gonna walk you through real quick about this, because honestly I must say this is the game I find myself coming back over and over again for the simple reason it gives you this freedom of movement, the possibility of engage enemies any way you want, how you want it. There's no time pressure, there's nothing. It's an actual sandbox experience, something that is very hard to come by, but also it's not dull, it's not boring. You can always find a way to kill enemies, the same enemies, in I would say at least 10 different ways, and 10 is only if you're not creative and you're using stuff in your inventory. So let's take a look how it all go. So I need to get in and find a way inside the Boyle estate. Here's our, well, nice henchman slash ferryman, Samuel, and we need to go in. So let's take a look how we actually do things. First of all, you have a selection view. Down here are the powers that you have selected or you unlocked and are using currently. You have crossbow, you have a heart that helps you, well, find objectives and things. You have spring razor, which is kind of like a very modified version of, you guessed it, booby trap, but well, kind of like steampunk version of it. You have your usual grenades and of course an ammo count for whatever you want to use. If you want to go non-lethal way, you can use a crossbow with the sleep darts. If you want to go all out, you can use incendiary bolts. And this is kind of like your main guns, give or take. There's no shotguns, there's no assault rifles and things like that. Obviously there is certain things that you will be kind of always using, and this is your powers. So for my powers I have a blink, which as you can read is short teleport, slow time and possession for controlling animals. So in terms of things you can actually do and how fast paced this game can actually be if you want, this is pretty amazing. Now even if we are right here, as you can see all this city, and it doesn't really look that much, you know, better than any other title from the same age. The reason why it looks so grim is because it sets the mood. So whatever you look, well, apart from very specific things, you can actually go anywhere you want. So let me see if I'm actually able to scale this building in some sort of actual, well, way. And there you go. You're on a rooftop, and the fun doesn't stop there. I mean, you can literally go and see what and how. So we have this fella. I don't really want to kill him, so I'm just gonna put him to sleep. One of the plague-ridden citizens who's lost his mind, and storyline kind of really revolves around this. You are Corvo Atano, which is a royal guardian of a priest, well, basically the queen. You got betrayed, set up for life, and you escape because a lot of people believe you're not at fault. Now obviously this game plot kind of goes that you need to prove your innocence. At the same time you need to save the new queen, which is technically her daughter, which is what, like 5 or 6 years old? I mean, she's very small, so I don't know, I'm not even guessing her age at this point. And you kind of need to get through all these hoops and loops just to get to her and uncover the truth and stuff. You do have a protagonist, which is the guy who owns all this stuff. His name is an outsider. So outsider is like this evil, you know, godlike spirit, if you want to call him that, who gives you these powers, and he is just he's enjoying to watch humans suffer or do their choices, and he's kind of like, he knows what the choices are supposed to be, and he's kind of like, you know, oh my goodness, there is someone still here. Why can't you just let me live peacefully? So for me, I don't really like killing people here unless I'm going completely, absolutely mental. So let me just make sure this is, well, empty, or at least not more with all these zombies before we go in. And looks like we're kind of done here. When it comes to actual things like mechanics, I must say there's a holster mechanic, as you can see. I can just take all my weapons away and go like this. Of course, I'm the most wanted man in the history of this kingdom, because since I was the private guard of the queen, of course I'm highly skilled, and everybody knows that I'm not the guy, well, they should be fucking with. So what is the main point of this game? You will be hunting runes. So runes give you the power to unlock basically whatever you can use, and you find runes using the heart. So it literally shows you wherever on the map some sort of secrets are hiding, and then you can go and actually pick them up if you want. If not, that is completely fine. The game doesn't punish you for that, but you will soon feel that you are lacking some sort of skills, and you will quite literally want to progress there. So for me, I'm not even gonna touch this rune. I'm just gonna take this spiritual remedy, because obviously since we're using powers, we need some sort of mana or something, and without it, well, things are going very quickly sideways, as you might imagine. And yeah, honestly, I like this game for the simple reason of the free roam function. You can do whatever you want, and if you're good enough, you can do full stealth, no kills, get your objectives done. If you put in this extra effort, if you don't, you can just go guns blazing and kill whoever you want as well. Well, I haven't played this game for a while, but let me just try and use this game mechanic, and I failed, but here we are, and this is how it actually works. Obviously, I'm not the best example when it comes to playing games I haven't played for a long while, but you kind of get the gist. And the longer you play this game, the more, I would say, adventures you will get. It's never the same as you replaying the games. You will kind of always want to do something more. So let's see if we can bend time here. So as you can see, we can actually just move around and just enjoy all this while they are basically incapable of doing anything. And I must say, this is pretty nice. Okay, so we have a tall boy here. So if he shoots at us, we can evade. As you can see, he's trying to shoot us with those goddamn arrows. Now, when it comes to these boys, unfortunately, there's not really much we can do about them. Either you take them down or you just, well, suffer in silence. So unfortunately, I have to take him down, as much as I don't really want to do it. And a celebrity one up and top. Graphically, this is definitely not the game you would say that catches your eye, but the setting itself and how it actually plays out the story is pretty damn well. Obviously, you can get in a lot of troubles with a lot of people, but I can't really say that, you know, this is kind of something that you will be too sorry about, even if you kill them. At the end of each level or mission, you will be given a score of how you did things, in terms of could you do something better, worse, or whatnot, and you can improve from there if you want. If you don't, just go through the game, doesn't matter which difficulty, and it will still gonna be fun to play. Odd thing about this game, it doesn't really drop down in price, so unless you can get a really good deal, I wouldn't say you have to absolutely play this game. That is not the case. This is kind of like for certain players only. So when we talk about the actual resources this game is pulling, as you can see, we are playing everything maxed out, and we're using 880 megs of video memory and 4 gigs of RAM, and we're getting what, 100 plus frames per second on full HD, and the performance is not really that much different on 4K, to be completely fair. I've done review of this game already, and so far I must say it is very playable on older hardware and there's no issues whatsoever. A couple of things you might want to pay attention to is the mantle system they have actually implemented in this game. As you can see, you can basically latch and climb onto anything. It's kind of like an Assassin's Creed, but with a bit of magic touch to it, which you can use to reach hard to reach spaces, and you can actually plan your approach to whatever thing you want to conquer. Well, if that's your thing. If not, that is fine. However, I would say this is something I do believe a lot of you guys have already played, so it's not something that, you know, this is going to be very new and never seen before. So let me just get into this, well, assassin style play and see if we can get in. The story itself and the progression is rather linear, so we need to get in, and of course if we go here, the lady loses her invitation that is required for us, and if we are just being a very good NPC and just follow after it, we can go in without any issues. There's a lot of side quests that you can do, a lot of challenges, secret areas and stuff like that, but honestly I would say play it once the way you want, and then play it a different way if you want as well. To be honest, this is entirely up to you, but you will see that not a single playthrough is the same. Even if you know who you need to kill and why you're killing them. That actually looks pretty scary. You will see that the enemies are never in the same place, apart from very few exceptions. The storyline is not really long. It really depends on how long you actually make it. And well, at this point I'll just give you a sneak peek how it looks when we need to do a side quest. So we need to give a note to Lord Shaw, so that's exactly what we're gonna do. And since I played this game a couple times, I already know that we need to duel, and this is basically how the duel will look like. And after that we're gonna move on to the next part of Dishonored series, which Well, we'll talk about it once we get there. So obviously it's not all run and gun. If you want, you can kill them all and be done with it. But the objective here is to talk with him first. So if you don't do it, it's not going to trigger the sequence. And since we need to duel, here you go. You need to actually duel with the Glad. You take the gun and you listen to this filly who doesn't really look that good. As you can see, the textures and everything else is pretty chunky. But that is the actual art style of Dishonored. And to be completely fair, it looks pretty decent. I mean, you don't really need anything else, so let's just go for it and see how it goes. So, of course, I need to go here, look away, and then I need to shoot the guy on count of 3, which I have no idea when it is. It's a good thing I have subtitles on, because, well, otherwise I wouldn't have any clue. And he actually shot me. Okay. So I killed the guy, and that's pretty much all there is for today. The guards will usually have their own banter to talk to each another one about certain things that's going around in the world. It's sometimes fun to listen to them. And there's definitely the most famous phrase from Dishonored is shall we gather for whiskey and cigar tonight? Never doubt it. This has been circulating around the internet for a while. Obviously, for those who played the game, it means the world. For those who didn't, you know, it's just something stupid. So can't really blame anyone about that, to be completely fair. So let me just quickly dispatch of this guy. Of course, I have certain skills already purchased for myself. Like if I kill someone, it leaves no trace. But again, this is up to you if you want to experiment with certain game types and how you approach your objectives. So again, this is fully your choice. You're not pressured to go somewhere. You're not pressured to do anything. And if you don't want to do it, just follow the storyline. And I must say, this is something this game actually really... It does really well. So, I don't know. I must say I don't really highly recommend this game, but I must say this game is alright. This game is pretty okay for the way it's been made and the setting it's setting. There is a couple DLCs that comes with the game if you buy it officially. There's the Witch Manor and I think something about assassins, because it kind of follows up on the storyline of who killed the queen and why, and you play that as that assassin. So in here I have to kill one of the 3 sisters, and as you can see there's a party, and obviously there's like some steampunk inventions there. Again, I'm not gonna go into too much details, but as you can see, everything actually kind of sets the vibe of those times. You don't really have, you know, those electric things. You kind of have like more like candles and stuff like this. You can steal stuff if you want. If you get caught, well, that's on you. And again, this is pure fun. If you are if you never played this game before, or you're not into the titles like these, feel free to skip it. I'm not gonna judge. But either way, I must say this is pretty decent stuff. And someone wants me to follow him, looks like a discount scarecrow. And anyway, I'm not gonna do anything just now, because again, this kind of gives extra effort if you want to do this mission perfectly, which is kind of loud word for, you know, not fucking up the moment you start the game. So hey, I think this is pretty much all there is. And yeah, the reflections in the marble tiles on playing on maxed out settings. Anyway, I think this is pretty much all there is about Dishonored. And let's look at its next sequel, Dishonored 2, which is very, very interesting title. So let's take a look. So Dishonored 2 is actually obviously the successful, at some degree, launch of the next, well, it's really hard to call it a next game or next sequel of Dishonored, for the simple reason it kind of really matters on your perspective. Now, when it comes to Dishonored series in general, there's not really a timeline, if that makes sense. The first game kind of follows a certain trait, a certain storyline with your choices that make up the main event, and you kill or you don't kill people, how you kill them and stuff like this. Dishonored 2 basically just picks up exactly where you left off. It does not carry over your game progress, and that's basically made for people who are new to the genre or new to the game, so they can start fresh. Now, when it comes to certain things, and you might actually see it right up here, Dishonored Death of the Outsider, this is technically the third installment of the game, but not really. It's kind of like a DLC, and we're gonna talk about this just in a second. So, just to cover the basics of Dishonored 2, it actually saw the daylight at 2016, and of course it's still made by the same Arcane Studios. Publisher is Bethesda, and of course there's nothing more to it. As you can see, well, nothing really to write home about. If we go for options and we check out, of course we do have a bit more settings to play with. Of course we're playing on full HD, and if you look at the quality settings, there is a lot of things you can actually tweak, and there's a good reason for it. This game, the moment it hit the shelves, it was trash. It was lagging, bugging, it wouldn't run on decent hardware, so people were just playing around with settings because 2016, I mean, most of the gamers were sitting on rather okay-ish rigs, to be completely fair, and even they couldn't actually max this game out and get stable 60 frames. I had this game, well, I actually did the benchmarks on it as well, and graphical comparison between the first and second part. I didn't cover the franchise, and I was playing it with 980, and 980 fully maxed out, I didn't hit 60 frames all the time. I was kind of like between 50, 55-ish on some certain areas, and to be honest, yes, this game looks way better, it looks way different than original Dishonored, but when you need to trade performance versus graphical fidelity, this game is simply not negotiating with you. You either give it your full or you can just go fuck yourself. This is very unforgiving title. Since we have, well, 1080 Ti to play with, of course I'm gonna use and abuse this power. So when we look at this Dishonored 2 system requirements, which is the recommended ones, the RAM is already hooked up to be 16 gigs. You need at least AMD Radeon RX 480, which kind of indicates you need at least 6 or 8 gigs of video memory. For CPU, it wants at least Intel iCore i7 4770, which is a pretty beefy CPU, to be completely fair. If you actually followed my channel and you've seen the videos when I'm doing the old hardware runs, I was testing most of the games on i7 2600 paired up with 980, and the results across full HD games is actually pretty decent. You are, I must say, almost every game can be run on 60 frames, fully maxed out on full HD or 1080p. For this game, it is not the case. So for an older title to actually have this unrealistic expectations for the people, it is, I would say, a bit unrealistic and not really, fair. But nevertheless, the game itself is pretty okay. So obviously I've set everything, well, to tax out the system. I could actually enable triple buffering to have a bit stable frame rate, but since I have 1080 Ti, I want to see how this game performs. So let's take a look how it looks, and you might actually understand why I don't like this game that much. Storyline wise, we are able to play either as the saved queen, or well, the previous queen, little girl on the first part, or her still servant Corvo Atano, which was the main protagonist in the main game. And the reason why you switch between these two is kind of boils down to the very beginning of the game, where you're forced to make your choice. And I'm not sure if this is because of diversity, that you can or should be able to choose the gender you play with. I mean, it's cool to play as either, but the problem is there's no difference. You will go through the game, every single step, every single dialogue the same way, either gender. Same with Odyssey, same here. I mean, and those are two different titles, but the point is, your gender choice will not affect your choices in general or the storyline, which technically for Dishonored series should be very big plot twist point, because I mean, quite literally, you either play as a queen or you play as a bodyguard. Yes, by the plot, obviously, if you play this game, you will know. This chick is actually trained by her servant or bodyguard, so she has all the skills and everything, which is a bit weird for a queen, because, well, Corvo is basically an assassin, and the chick is a queen, so, you know, for queen to train into assassin arts is, I can see a political issue right there. Either way, let's just go into the campaign and see how it looks. So, honestly, I don't know. It should be fine. So actually I skipped the loading screen for the simple reason that it's a bit annoying. And let's take a look at how it looks. So we're playing everything on ultra, everything maxed out, full HD, and we're getting what, 60, 70 frames with 1080 Ti. As you can see, the GPU usage is 4.4 gigs of video memory. The RAM is being pumped out at 6.8. GPU usage is hovering below 80%. Well, now it was 80. And I must say, this game looks like goddamn trash. Honestly, I have no idea. And obviously the same issues as I told you. When this game actually launched, it was just like this. It wasn't anything, you know, amazing. And it runs very, very hard on pretty much very good hardware. Of course, you still struck a deal with an outsider and you have your own skills that you are able to actually utilize just to move around the city or the premises much faster and with much more agility, if you choose so. If not, well, that's kind of on you, because honestly you will be missing out a lot. So in terms of exploration and different areas you can, well, sneak in, this is a big plus. Obviously the whole world is your playground. Everything in here is basically where you can go and, well, explore. This is the whole idea of Dishonored series. Everything you do will have some sort of consequence at certain point. I mean, if you kill only the grunts, nothing will change. If you go for certain checkpoints and things, yes, it will change some certain things. But I wouldn't say that, you know, it's gonna be game breaking or whatnot. So honestly, it's entirely up to you. And those guys are clearly picking a fight with me, and I do not like it. So let me just take this healing thingy and run around like a madman, because what else we gonna do here? I don't have any powers to use because, again, I didn't actually play this game for this long on my account. Well, at least officially, wink wink, but you kind of get the main idea. Movement and everything like that, pretty decent, pretty nice. There's a lot of assassinations you can do, kind of like from Assassin's Creed. If you jump and you time it right, you can kill them in one hit or whatnot. But basically you're gonna be just trying to sneak, and that was a very bad example of sneaking. However, you get the idea. Fights can and will get pretty fucked up if you are, you know, for this ideology that I need to kill everyone. And honestly, the game kind of encourages you to do that as well at some point. And these guys are literally looking for a fight, and, well, the AI literally fucked itself. However, of course, limbs and stuff, we can throw a limb at someone. Like you, kind sir. So as you can see, all these magical powers kind of help you a bit when it comes to certain things, but it kind of gets a bit, you need to get used to it. Now, in terms of overall storyline and graphical performance, I can't really blame it that it's like not nice, or, you know, it's too slow. I must say it's sometimes even too fast paced for your own good, for the simple reason that unless you know the level, you can't really use all the advantages. For instance, I'm kind of waiting for myself to be able to get up here because I suck. And now we're in this place, and obviously we can loot the stuff and get something that will help us in our battles. At the same time, would I recommend this game? Absolutely. There's a reason why. Because the storyline of Dishonored 2 is actually a bit more sophisticated, and locations where you will actually be is way better than in Dishonored 2. I mean, Dishonored. This game, literally, at its honest, earnest things, actually listened to the fan base. They wanted big open spaces, hard opponents, puzzles, challenging combat, a lot of different things you can do, and they actually delivered. So honestly, I can't really say that this is a bad game. I would say I'm kind of like a bad gamer at this point, but other than that, I mean, you guys should be definitely better than me when it comes to things like that. And I can take my friendly skull that I can throw, and people will freak out. I would as well if I saw someone tossing a skull from God nowhere. Of course, full, well, freedom of moving around if you want. You will be moving around and stealing stuff like there's no tomorrow, for the simple reason that it gives you money, and you need money to buy upgrades. And here's a blueprint: fire hardening treatment, whatever that means. Right now we're actually in a place that we shouldn't be, so if someone comes and finds me here, I'm pretty screwed. As you can see, there are safes scattered around the world with combinations you can either look up on YouTube if you are noob, or try to explore the game world and actually find where the, well, hints or codes are actually stored. Sometimes it's not even in the same place, so if you want to actually do this, you kind of need to explore every inch, and this is what Dishonored series are all about: exploration rather than just stupid combat. And I must say, they actually nailed this with this one. Not only it looks better and it runs shittier than the original one, but it actually gives you a bit more movement freedom when it comes to it. As you can see, open levels, you can go wherever you want. Wherever you go, you will find something. And that is something that I would say, again, a lot of games simply do not have. So if I would say, should you play the first or the second Dishonored, I would say actually start with the first one. See if you like the game, because not only it's gonna be cheaper, but it basically has the same mechanics and gameplay idea as the second one, and you will definitely be able to max it out and play it on 4K. And if it's not your cup of tea, you might have lost about 2 to 3 pounds in general, which is less than a pint in Edinburgh. But if you actually say this is what I want, and you have a good system and you kinda like all the way this game presents itself, definitely go for Dishonored 2 as well, or maybe just start with it. It doesn't really matter, because you will be basically eased into the story, so you don't have to guess who's who and what and why and for what reason. So it kind of helps you even if you're a new start. Now, when I said that I do not really think about the Death of the Outsider to be as an actual DLC, the reason is, this is a money grab. For this game, Death of Outsider is a money grab. So Outsider, as a guy who gave you all these powers, apparently some people or the NPCs of the main storyline, they just didn't like the guy because, you know, he's manipulative and stuff like this. At the same time, well, he didn't really make you do anything. He kind of like offers you if you want, and it's up to you to accept or not. Which this game also gives you the choice. It gives you the choice. Do you want to accept the magical bullshit powers like teleportation and a lot of other cool things? Or you want to play it with just, well, your basic weapons, and then you can't do insanely high jumps like this. So obviously you can just choose your own difficulty. Now when it comes to the DLC Death of Outsider, the problem is pretty apparent. There is, the whole idea is you're playing as one of the previous NPCs, which is like the captain of the ship. I'm gonna spoil the surprise, who's that diversity character in here. And she basically magically gets the powers, and then she decides to take down the man in black, or this guy who gives her the power, for the reason that she thinks he's evil. I can literally see the irony here, because, I mean, why do you care? And obviously there's a plot twist and the reason what and how and why, but honestly I can't really feel that it's justified at any point, for the simple reason that's not how games work or should work at any point. So I don't know, maybe it's just me. Also, this is a bad place to be right now, but hey, I'm just gonna heal up real quick and just kill them all with a pistol, because why not? Of course, you have the usual loot mechanics and stuff like this. But again, yeah. So back to the Death of the Outsider. I don't know. I never considered even playing that one because it just felt like a money grab, and I really hate money grabs when it comes to it. Give me a story that is good, give me a gameplay that is good. As this money grab goes, or the Death of the Outsider, you're doing exactly the same thing within the same premise, and in terms of changes, there's no changes when it comes to actual gameplay or story. Your story is actually much more narrowed than the original two. So why if they want to confine myself to just following this one tiny strand of leads to a place where I know that there's not going to be any, you know, continuity? Or how would you actually explain that, you know, there's no end? End of the day, of course, you have the choice to either kill the guy or not kill the guy, and you're on your happy way. But this is not exactly what Dishonored series represents. It represents the free choice, but it also represents consequences. If you go for the main guy who gave you the choice and you kill him, isn't that a choice by itself? So it kind of defeats the purpose, but who am I to talk? Now, talking about traversing this environment, as you can see, it's pretty non-linear. You can go through whatever way you want. If you can get up to that rooftop, good luck. There's no, well, if there is a restriction to get to it, it probably can be broken, because this game is pretty forgiving in when it comes to it. Everything else, well, electrified train tracks, well, that's kind of on the player itself, like me. So I think this is pretty much enough to compare these two editions and these two games. So it's entirely up to you how you want to approach this problem or game with all its mechanics. And if you like it, feel free to play it, or if not, well, then don't. I mean, I'm not gonna tell you to do whatever you want or don't want to do, but I must say, if you start playing this game and you like it and you can run it decently, I would say actually the graphics doesn't really matter as much as the actual frames per second. Unfortunately, this game does have a kind of requirement for that to be playable. You need to hit at least 60, you know, just because you have this fast-paced movement through the buildings and combat. So you kind of want to hit at least 60 or, well, 50 at worst. And that's pretty much all there is. If you want to go for the storyline, just play it on, I don't know, boring setting like normal. And that's pretty much all there is. Of course, you will get all these nice kill stuffs. You can parry and then you can kill them. I think I should just kill the guy somehow. Maybe even like this. Or maybe he'll kill me. Either way, this is the end of, well, comparison between Dishonored and Dishonored 2. If you have any questions or whatever, post them in, well, comments or send me an email or whatnot. And yeah, thanks for watching, stay classy, and as always, see you next time.